So, boys, let's get into it. Main event of the evening, Shamil Gaziev taking on Greg Velasco. And I know that my guy Pierce is fired up about this one. I want to give you guys one little nugget here as we get into it, because our guy is from Bahrain, Shamil Gaziev. He is fighting out of Manama, Bahrain. And guys, Kyle Snyder, Abdul Rashid Sajulayev. If these names are not familiar to you, no problem. I don't expect them to be. International wrestling's not for everybody. But guys, these are absolute world-class competitors, some of the best of all time, some of the best of their country, some of the best representatives at the weight. Kyle Snyder, multiple-time world and Olympic champion. What happened, guys? What happened in that matchup? A Bahrainian 20-year-old that nobody's ever heard of just burst on the freaking scene, beat them both back to back. It's like this guy is built differently. So Bahrain on the map, making a huge splash at the World Championships. A lot of shakeups in the World Championship brackets. USA putting on an absolute show. You know, we had to represent with our Aaron Pico wrestling shirt today. But overall, just wanted to give that little shout. So Pierce, I know you got stuff to give for the other side for Velasco, but Narrative Nation had to have their say first. Bahrain's on the map, and they got a heavyweight competing here who's got some wrestling chops of his own. Them double legs were not playing around on the regional tape that I watched. What do you think of this one?
Man, don't cock tease the people like that, man. I don't have a lot to say about this one, man. It's when we look at this matchup, I mean, Gaziev, Shamil, he's minus 600. Velasco's plus 425. I'm not one to be playing Gaziev at minus 600. I'm maturing as a bettor. I'm kind of staying away from these long parlays. I mean, we got Bruno Lopez a couple weeks back, where Ribeiro, that was a Brazilian G.I. Joe. Greg Velasco, you know, he's like, you see him at your local Bojangles, and he's a big boy. He's he's a little bit of the D minus athlete is the best way to put it, but tough kid. He's you don't see many heavyweights going for heel hooks. I'll give him that. And Velasco, he makes a lot of mistakes, I will say. Never trust a guy that lost a striking decision to Hamdi Abdal Wahib. That happened. It's not fun to watch, but it happened. And Greg Velasco, he looks to get off on his grappling. I would say that's probably how you would describe his style. But for someone that grapples a lot, his takedowns aren't necessarily the best. And my problem with him is he goes for a lot of sacrifice throws, and he's ended up on bottom as a result of that in a lot of his fights. And Shamil, I mean, you can tell by the name. I thought he was Russian until Liam said that, but that's crazy because what's it, Bahrain? It's a very small country, so to see them have someone on the MMA stage and then the wrestling dude you mentioned earlier, that's good to see. And maybe the UFC is trying to hit that market. And I think this is a pretty obvious Gaziev setup, so it's just a matter of how we're approaching it. I see the under 1.5 took a lot of action the past couple hours. It opened around like a pick'em or like slight favorite to the under. It's now like minus 200 now. I do see some Gaziev round one at plus money. So that's probably the way to play it because I don't think Velasco's getting an early finish. I think the under is all Gaziev. And if you were to pick how you think he's going to get it done, it's got to be KO. While he does have some submissions on his record, I don't think his jiu-jitsu's that good at all. Honestly, I don't think Gaziev, I think he's a bit overhyped, but he's got a good matchup in front of him. Maybe Velasco's a good live bet because I'm not playing Gaziev pre-fight. Velasco could maybe have a cardio advantage, but I mean, we've seen in a lot of his fights, Velasco, like in the Ronald Coleman fight, he got mounted. He was damn near losing like the first 7 minutes of that fight, and then he turned it around because Coleman kind of quit. And we've seen Velasco go through a lot of bad position in his fights, but it's probably going to be Gaziev round one. But if it gets extended, be careful because I don't know if Gaziev has the best cardio. We've seen him go to a decision in a fight that said split. It shouldn't have been a split, but even then, it was a little bit suspect. And I don't know. It could be interesting if Gaziev can't get takedowns here, but even on the feet, Gaziev is probably a much more powerful striker. He is a bit of a liability defensively. I just don't think Velasco is going to be the one to find his chin. But down the line, if he fights a power puncher, be careful. Maybe it's going to be Velasco, but I highly doubt it. Probably going to be Gaziev round one ground and pound, but can't touch it, man. It's minus 600 heavyweights, man. I know better.
I feel you there, my man. And we've got Shamil, you know, on the one hand. Who would I compare him to? You know, he's like let's even call him like a Sergey Pavlovich light, right? Like let's call him like a guy that's got some power on the feet, but you know, if the fight gets extended, might get a little sketchy. He's got the takedowns, doesn't always use them. Sometimes just engages on the feet and looks to knock people the hell out. But sometimes he just takes people down, barrels them out with ground and pound shots, right? So trying to find an archetype there. It's almost like a reach, I'm like pulling for straws. I'm trying to find something that fits. The other guy is Roy Nelson. Okay. The other guy is a young Roy Nelson. That is what Greg Velasco is to me. How many guys do you see with that big old belly that are jiu-jitsu aces, right? That's what this guy kind of seems like to me. And by jiu-jitsu ace, I mean for the heavyweight division, guys. You don't need to be freaking Johnny Ashigarami to be a heavyweight leg locker, right? Look at Cyril Gahn just going, give me that ankle, and just falls back for it. And Dante Mays is like, no, let go of me, straight ankle locks in the UFC heavyweight division, right? When you look at this guy, he's gotten some interesting finishes, Greg Velasco. The heel hook from bottom. I was talking about the thing that stands out to me the most about this guy is that he has great survivability on the bottom position. Guys, at heavyweight, it's normally one takedown, the fight is over shortly thereafter. See Alexander Volkov and Tai Tuivasa, right? It's panic stations. It's, oh my God, I'm getting mounted. It's there is no defense. There's just like realizations. Oh no, this bad thing's happening. Oh no, this bad thing's happening. There's not even attempts to do things defensively. Whereas this guy, Greg Velasco, is looking to regain positions. He's looking to go deep half. He's looking to enter legs. He's looking to do a lot of things to just make people uncomfortable if they want to hang out on top of him. But that being said, he ends up on bottom way too much, right? He's just getting taken down into some of these spots. He's going for sacrifice throws like Pierce mentioned, and then ending up in the bottom spot. Like there's a bunch of things about this that are super concerning for me when you look at that. And Greg Velasco, on the other hand, he's got this kind of weird ability to stay athletic and kind of stay composed in these fights. But you could tell that on the feet, he's slowing down. It's on the ground, he feels comfortable. He seems like a guy who could do marathon rolls at Jiu-Jitsu Academy. He'll be there 60 minutes, keep going. But then if you do the cardio kickboxing class, this guy might be checking out after the first 3 rounds of it and, going to smoke a cigarette and eat a meatball sandwich or something. So that's kind of just the way that I feel about this matchup. Gordo, what do you think?
Yeah, man. I couldn't find an analysis either, but it is one where I'm agreeing with a lot of things Pierce is saying for this one. It is a very volatile heavyweight main event. And last time we had a heavyweight main event that was minus 600, Bruno Lopez fell through. That's all I'm saying. But no, this is one where you got to favor Gaziev here. I do think he has the clear power threat, the clear optics early on, the clear, let's just say, he seems to be the A side in that first round. He has takedown upside. He has ground and pound upside. I think he is the way more powerful threat. And although there are holes in his defensive game, everything that we see coming back at him, especially the fears we have for him, are usually maybe that striking defense, that durability concerns, all that stuff that I don't really worry about when I'm talking about Velasco here, someone who is more so a guy who will beat you down the stretch. And when I say down the stretch, that's because I think the guy's pretty good cardio, pretty good jiu-jitsu in his own right, but not someone who is going to be a one hitter quitter here. He is going to have to wear you down over the stretch. And that's why it's kind of fearful to go against someone here like Gaziev, because these two guys are completely polar opposites, right? Gaziev is a first round killer who has the opportunity to knock your head off early or ground and pound into an early finish, right? Whereas Velasco doesn't really offer much round one finish outside. He's more so guys going to break down the stretch. And it's more so why I agree with Pierce that the live entry on Velasco is the way to go on this one, because I don't really see Gaziev having the ability to sustain a high pace at the way he fights for the later rounds. And I do know from Velasco that for a heavyweight, this guy can stay in the fight. He's got good cardio. He's got a good ability to stay calm. And I do think he'll take over as the fight goes. So for that reason, it's pretty easily Gaziev early, Velasco late. I'm just not sure which one prevails. And of course, you're going to side towards Gaziev. Of course, he has more finish upside early on. But am I willing to pay such a hefty price tag on him early? Probably not. And for that reason, it's so hard for me to go out there and say with conviction that I think this line's right, because I think it is a little wide, to be completely honest. So give me Gaziev early on. I think the best way to attack this one is probably some Gaziev round one, which is plus 125. I think the Gaziev and under 1.5 are correlated. The Velasco over 1.5 is correlated. So what is Velasco round 3 plus 1,600? Yeah, no, I'd say we probably take Gaziev early props, or you live bet Velasco. That's my way of breaking this one down. Pretty volatile main event.
Absolutely. That's always what you expect in the heavyweight division. And again, we talk about just long-term things. I don't know that you're ever going to really get rich laying minus 600s in the heavyweight division. just a little bit too much inherent volatility, especially with the cardio. I mean, a lot of these guys, when it gets to the 7.5 minute mark in a high pressure situation like this, they're going to be having cardiac arrest. They're going to be really struggling. So you look at both these guys, I think they've each been to decision once. I'm not saying it can't happen here, but I'm just saying like it's two guys that seem like guys that are going to be in fights that finish more often than not. Because I'll tell you, Velasco's been surviving so far, but it's also in CFFC against some guys that are 41 years of age and 3-3. And, when you're getting mounted by those guys, maybe you can figure it out a couple times over. But for me, the ultimate problem is he's just too accepting of bad positions. And on top of that, I think that Shamil just has a really good chin. And like, despite the fact that he eats a lot of shots, to Pierce's point, he does get hit very cleanly. He just seems like a guy that's going to continue to stalk forward and throw these big shots. And I feel like he's more athletic and hits a little bit harder. So I feel Velasco is probably just going to end up taking the worst of it while it's on the feet. I feel like if it goes to the mat, he does have some opportunity to introduce volatility with the submission threats. But I just feel like overall, the physicality, this guy's just huge and he's got like a big chest. I feel like a lot of that stuff was working on guys that were creating space for him. And this guy's probably just going to be very heavy on him, make him super uncomfortable. He might win by smother choke. You know what I'm saying? Like this guy, he's just got a huge body. And I feel like he's going to make him very uncomfortable on bottom. And Velasco's normal tricks might not work here. So for me, I do think it's an early finish here for Shamil. But New Jersey, it's close enough to New York that I'll at least give him the hand pat and wish him well. A lot of New Jersey guys come into my academy, very good wrestlers over there. And you see that in Velasco. He's a scrambler, right? He's not a bad scrambler at all. But I saw a few fights from Shamil, including that fight that went to the second round with Polikarov or something like that. I'm pulling names out of my ass now, just trying to remember it. But it was a fight where basically it was an ACB. And that guy was really coming after him, landed some good shots, but he just continued to put the pressure on him, put him in some front headlock scenarios, and then kneed him into oblivion. And he showed he's got a lot of different ways to take somebody out of the fight. Those knees, big punches, he's got ability to do it with ground and pound. So I just feel like he's got a lot of different paths and opportunities here, whereas Velasco is going to have to survive some bad spots. Like it's going to look like he was the underdog here, I think, no matter what. But I think he could still win the fight. So to your point, live entries could be the way. I did see, Gaziev kind of slowing down with his opponents a little bit, whereas Velasco, he almost baits you into slowing down, and then he picks up the pace with a quick speed adjustment. So interesting stuff, man. I think that overall, the better quality of wins is with Shamil here, despite being over in Brave. Like, I just feel like those guys are better. The Darko Stosic win, Darko landed a couple of shots. He really wanted that win, but he silenced that crowd with an uppercut from Hades. This guy's a sportsman. He didn't want to knock people out too bad. And multiple times in Brave, they're like, no, go kill that guy. And he's like, you sure? I mean, okay, boss. And his finishing instincts are good though. He's going for these walk-off knockouts. He's getting them. And then he's like, all right, I'll go kill him if you want. And then he kills him again. So I just feel like this guy can turn it on in an instant. And I feel like he's going to get the win here in round one. So that's my look here in all likelihood, but potentially a pass. It's a volatile fight. There we have it, boys. What we should do real quick is give an opportunity for a recap